Death by tripping over a cat? Huh. Why didn't you tell us now, Miss Pavlova? Tell us exactly what happened last night.
It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late. It was so late that I hadn't had time to feed Daka, so I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands.
People do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments.
She was so fast. She disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her.
And that is how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it?
Yes. And I had read the rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Daka with me.
Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really.
So I listened and I listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping.
So at that point, you thought it safe to try to lure the kitten back again. By dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator and into the adjoining cabin.
Daka always loves this toy, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return.
So the faint whistling sound Cosmo wrote about in his diary was Miss Pavlova trying to retrieve her pets. Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened.
Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. We just had to wait until she had calmed down. But then... I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out, and then... Oh, it was such a dreadful pang. Then afterwards, nothing. It was totally silence.
Cosmo was... From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, seems like that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. This Hesperia is a large vessel, but even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Ahsoka was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet, a combination of unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. But what became of the kitten afterwards?
In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator.
Yet Daka is nowhere to be seen.
I must have forgotten to lock my case. And now she's disappeared again.
Gracious! That cat is as insufferably restless as I am. Well, he has something at himself at least.
When I awoke this morning, I heard that a young man in the cabin next to mine had died. But I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back.
Oh, hold on a minute. What about the snake? You're right, where is it? If the snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavlova, then whose is it, and where did it come from? What on earth is such a dangerous creature doing on board this ship? Oh, I didn't say. Snake is my friend. His name is Pirozoko. Pirozoko. What? What? That snake belongs to you. He escaped from cage when the emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him in here. Oh, please don't tell me the snake ate the cats. Oh. Yes. How did that snake get into this cabin? But animals are not permitted on board. Ha! We are at sea for 1 year. He wants to be so long without close friend, without someone who understands. Couldn't you find someone a little more human who understands you better? But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake? Surely you can appreciate the danger you are putting everyone in. No venom. Pirozak does not have venom. He is harmless, very long but very gentle. He is adorable, like Granny. It's venomless. Yes. Now he is hungry. So he's in bad mood. But once I feed him, he will see big smile. And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose? Ha! Like they say, they milk chickens. Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Pirozak eats mouses. Big, fat, round mouses. Ah. So... is that what the mouse trap in the passageway out there is for? Of course. How else can I catch my friend's favorite food? Nothing says stop the food chain like the look in their eyes right now. Sholmes, it's okay, it's okay. No one expected this guy with his weird pet snake coming, except me. I refuse to drink milk. It can't hear. It refuses to drink milk. It can't hear a whistle. It can't climb up a bell cord, and it's not even venomous. How the deuce did something so inept land a starring role? It's not my fault. I do not make up stories. My Pizrock is nothing to do with this incident. So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my best friend's tragic death. Ah, seems a bit anticlimactic, you know? Miss Pavlova. I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize. But please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what the circumstances, I cannot forgive you. But what are you talking about, Miss Mikotoba? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. It was just a series of unfortunate events and accidents. I am no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? To be perfectly honest, yes. There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story. I'm sure of it. I just can't quite put my finger on it. I confess, I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter. Oh? I am only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. ¿Qué? A distraction? What? I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. Not again! When did he do that? Especially as they're on your wrist as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were, Mr. Sholmes? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours. Was he not? Yes. Cosmo was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom, even. Where's this going? In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. Whatever that may be. The key to this is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure. If I can chase that down, maybe the truth will become clear. The truth about how you really died. And how that scene in your cabin really came to be. Alright. I'll see what I can do. Excellence. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo. So then, shall we begin? Yes. What we should ponder first is the victim who lost his life in a cabin that was bolted shut from the inside. Was this truly an unfortunate accident? Or was it in fact no accident at all? That is what we must establish in the first instance. But we've already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the kitten that had climbed into his cabin via the ventilator. Tragic, yes, but still an accident. Wait! Let's just take a step back. Doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? How do you have time to write a message if he died instantly after a trip and fall? And why would he write the message, right? I'm going to have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. Yes, it's starting to take shape now. There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story here. The evidence is right there in Cosmo's cabin. It's undeniable. His death couldn't possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let us show our hand, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence. The evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim's death was no mere accident. Okay. I'm leaning towards this. Because the message just doesn't fit in this scenario. If he truly did have a tragic, accidental fall, why would he write a message with his final words? In his dying breaths, right? Which implies one of two things. Either there was some foul play involved, which he was trying to seek out, or someone else went in and wrote the message to, frame someone. That could explain why it's in Russian, because he didn't write it, a Russian did. Is there anything else that fits the bill? I think we're done with the revolution. Don't think this helps us. Post-mortem report. Yeah, okay. Cause of death. Damage to the cervical vertebrae, resulting in instant death.
The victim's neck was almost certainly broken as a result. So not only does he not have a motive to write this, if he died if the moment of his death was when he fell and broke his neck, and he died instantly from the fall, he wouldn't have had time to write the message. Therefore, this is the evidence. The truth is clear according to this photographic print. There's no way that Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor.
That script, it's Russian, isn't it?
Indeed it is. The word written means wardrobe.
I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language, Japanese in this case.
But maybe he was studying Russian. It is a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast.
That doesn't seem likely. That's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not.
Sorry? What do you mean?
Exactly what I said before. There's no way that Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor. And the reason why is clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae, resulting in instant death. Instant death. Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything. Because he was already dead. That's like their favorite twist. The victim was already dead.
That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Asogi's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there if what Mr. Pavlova told us was true.
What?
So, Susada-san has noticed it too, then. Putting this message on the floor aside, there's something else that gives the truth away. Another piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. In other words, let's see. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily the glass object, is it? Right? That doesn't seem to make sense. This wasn't found there. This is just a log. Let me look. Let me pick up my history. A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there if what Miss Pavlova told us was true. Sometimes you want damage. Okay. A small piece of glass. Diary. I mean, not actually certain. Another piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. My university color pen. I forget, what is the history of this? Where did we find this exactly? Choose a character, so paper seal. Bold. Yep. Great. Wardrobe. Wash dishes. Okay, well, that was useless. Adhesive. Remnants of the glue you used. That's right. Just pulverized rice. Pulverized rice. Yep. Okay. Broke your heart. I mean, it could be the... And this proves something. Not sure what. I don't think it proves this. Like, we didn't even... It's not that many things we found in his room. Ah, drats. Okay. The only thing that really can be described as a remnant is the bell. But, like, it's not inconceivable. Like, if that was being worn by the cats... Oh. Look at where it's broken. If it fell off, which a break like this would imply the whole thing would have fallen off, how exactly did she manage to acquire the other half of it? That's our angle.
Yes.
This piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor.
But that's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck. Already knew all about that. It was broken in half when the victim tripped over the cat and fell. So we already have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic?
Unfortunately, there is a very big flaw. A fatal flaw.
Huh?
If that's really what happened, then how did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Yes, remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in that waste paper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova?
Oh, no.
Both these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. That when Mr. Osogi died last night in his cabin, there's someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth, in order to cover up his or her own guilt. Yes, there was someone else present in Mr. Osogi's. What? You're wasting time! Someone else was there? Duh, of course, we know this! What are you talking about? Bulkhead was bolted shut from the inside. There was no way in or out.
Yes.
And only other person in cabin when young student died was you.
Yes.
That's not the sort of thing you should say yes to, Ryunosuke. It's true I was in the cabin when it happened. You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details. But I don't know Russian. There's no way I would have left that message. Not would have. There's no way you could have left that message, to be precise about the details. Would you mind? Forgive me, my dear fellow. As I was saying, The person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor, in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time.
And then the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor, for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Sogi really died.
But why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell away? Leaving half behind was always going to raise suspicions.
Yes, well,
it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. The single small lamp suspended from above the ceiling would barely have cast any light onto the floor there. Little wonder, then, that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item.
You all suspect me, don't you?
it's a Seaman Stroganoff? Nina is a woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and she went away to join ballet company. But before, she was dancer on this ship, a member of this ship's band. You do not accuse a ship's angel of being criminal.
Ah, so that's it.
You say that when young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that is not possible. I give my tooth.
Well, this is almost interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure?
You are a great detective. You should know. Look truth in eyes. Captain Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. Nobody could go into cabin. Not Nina, not anyone. Are you want to tell me that killer can walk through locked doors? Yet, it's impossible.
He's right.
But wait, I've read about this in detective stories. People often tie a thread around the door latches so they can open and close them from the outside.
Thread? Are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors.
Certainly not. These are watertight doors, as one would expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel with not a gap in sight, no threads or needles or magnets could have been used.
No, of course not. I thought so too. But Mr. Naruto suggested it earlier, so...
Susato-san! How can you shift it onto me like that?
So Seaman Stroganoff has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside. Not necessarily.
What?
I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind having been used before. I don't believe it. Well, Mr. Naruto, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? A way to shut the bolt on the cabin door from the outside. One way does spring to mind, yes.
Do you really know what Mr. Sholmes means, Mr. Naruto?
Yes, and so should you. Because we've seen it happen. Indeed we have. So, would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruto? Point out the telling signs of the method that was used to slide the cabin door bolt across from the outside. None other than the shelf! Yes! Look at the bookcase there. See how the books and things on it have toppled over?
That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before.
Yes, that's right. It's a very powerful vessel, after all. When engines are thrown into reverse, a violent jolt goes across the entire ship. Any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over.
I believe
Yes, it's what's known as the force of inertia acting on the objects. Is there nothing Susada-san doesn't know? Or that isn't in her book, at least? Her book of all things? Well, whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase also made something else in this cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door. It was very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We had to come into this cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. But then... Hello, is anyone in there? Shout if you need assistance. Oh, that sounds like... Inspector Osanaga. Oh, yes. That's it. When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door. Yes. It's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. Or the force of inertia, if you want to call it that. Are you trying to say that last night, after Mr. Asogi was killed... Indeed. This is where you made another emergency stop? When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin, I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had toppled over, and all the ornaments. It was almost as if someone had run their hand across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over. Oh, yes, I remember that. And I stood them all up again, didn't I? Then, when we came into this cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like in Mr. Asogi's cabin. Oh my! Do you have anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova? Are you out of your mind? You say Beria made emergency stop? It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room. Oh, it is simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside? Used to trigger the emergency alarm? Oh, yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you only to press the button in times of emergency? On dark nights, when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. Hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewman to raise the alarm. The sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity. Wait! It was you? When the button is pressed, two things happen in interests of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings, and the vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. I wonder if that, maybe the headaches are from people like having their sleep interrupted from the alarm. Mr. Sholmes? Sure it wasn't you who... As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion. He sounds almost proud of himself. How dare you mess with the ship! I report you to Captain. You're in much trouble now. Now, I'm sure all that can wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact that we have now learnt a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on the cabin doors slide across. Really seems like quite the inept design, if I do say so myself. I mean, how do you guys get into the doors under normal circumstances? Anyway.
So, what we must now consider...
Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Last night, after what happened to Mr. Sogi, did the ship make an emergency stop, or did it not?
You are idiots! Beria is a huge ship with many passengers. If we make emergency stop, even in the middle of night, there would be chaos everywhere. What are your thoughts? Mr. Naruhodo? Well, it's certainly possible that some kind of emergency happened last night. We have evidence to support that idea.
Really? What evidence, Mr. Naruhodo?
Fascinating! Do show us, my good man. What evidence promotes the theory that some emergency gripped this vessel last night? I guess it's gotta be the ship's log, right? Because it's nothing to report. Yes. Seaman Stroganov, it's your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship, isn't that right? That is correct. Why? And the ship's log here, this would be where you record the details of your duties. What are you doing with that? That is mine! You rather carelessly left it atop the little makeshift bureau in the passageway out there. But as the responsible passengers, we took it into our care with a mind to return it to you later. I left it there on purpose. That is where I put it always. The point is, looking at what you usually record, it's clear that under normal circumstances you write the phrase, "nothing to report," every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. Nothing recorded in the log? That is... because nothing happened. But if nothing happened, you would normally write, "nothing to report," wouldn't you? Indeed so, which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened here aboard the SS Beria. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to fill in the ship's log, in fact.
Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night?
Stop talking rubbish! If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself. Oh? Why? Well, because if something as major as an emergency stop really happened, surely all of us would have noticed.
That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. The ship lurched so violently, and the alarm bell was so loud. I can't imagine that anybody would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night.
Well, no. That's a good point. What of the throbbing? Sorry? What do you mean? Your head, man. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We have all suffered with it. Oh, yes, I have had a headache, you're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today.
Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn.
Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected. He's right. My head's been throbbing today, too. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything has felt sort of hazy. I can't really remember anything that happened after I climbed back inside the wardrobe. The first thing I noticed this morning was the throbbing pain in my head. I'd already been dragged out of the wardrobe and had these handcuffs put on me by that point.
Why didn't I wake up when all that was happening to me? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, you boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Well, yes. Sorry. The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on? Well, Caswell looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. So you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it? Yes, in fact. And all of that. Caswell wasn't fond of chicken. Oh, really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken at all? That's right. He didn't touch it. Is that relevant? My dear fellow, does that not strike you? Oh. Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken? I do. No! Really, is that really true? The meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of a soporific designed to induce soporific designed to induce a very deep slumber in those who consumed it. A sleeping drug. That means this was quite premeditated. Do you mean whoever did this laced every meal with a sleeping drug? So no one would notice the ship's emergency stop? Mr. Naruhodo, of course that's what Mr. Sholmes means. What a far-fetched idea. Precisely. Lacing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug, a soporific drug, would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. What? Mr. Sholmes? Well, Seaman. I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be an inquiry made through the shipping company, of course. And were that to happen, every member of the crew, and the captain himself, would be hauled over the coals. For aiding and abetting a renegade.
Please, no more. I will tell everything.
Eh?
I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore.
These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe.
Yes. So when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me.
We all agreed to help everyone together. She threw away everything, her fame into ballet, Mother Russia. We wanted to help our angel.
I don't believe it.
You are right. We put sleeping drug in chicken last night.
Yes, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point.
We could not make all drug, how do you say, dissolve.
It's like a heavy seasoning.
At midnight, in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by comrade on shore with small fishing boats. While all the passengers of the SS Beria slept soundly. Thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion their evening meal had contained. So if that's what happens, the only people awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who dislike chicken and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova. And that means it would have been possible for you. You could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Cosmo's cabin door. But how does that make sense? Surely every cabin door would have ended up locked in that case, and there would have been complete chaos. Oh, I wouldn't say so. What? Ah, of course. Just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins. After which, they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the sleeping drug. Quite. And accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night. Yes. The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyway. And so not one of them would have found it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning. In summary, in order to fasten the bolt of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning. You have talked a long time and said many things. What is point? The point is what I said earlier. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life last night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide the broken fragments of glass that would reveal the culprit's identity. And someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, a busy night.
But I don't know about any of this. I'm just a little girl.
You like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas? But I am Sailor, and Sailor don't listen to long, boring stories. We don't believe. Sailors like me, we trust only what we see with our eyes. A laudable trait. What? I am quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes? Do you hear it? The accusatory cry of guilt on the wind?
What's accusatory? What accusatory cry of guilt?
Sorry, you've lost me. Proof of involvement, man. But you can't hear such a call with your ears. No, you must hear it with your eyes, for observation is the basis of all deduction. What are you talking about? I believe that the time has come for one final logic and reasoning spectacular, the truth. To expose the truth, rather. So, Mr. Naruto, your assistance, if you please. With what exactly, Mr. Sholmes? With observation, my dear fellow. Just as I said, one of these two prevaricators. Observation.
If you remember, Mr. Naruto, we know that somebody tried to fabricate evidence, don't we? By tampering with the scene of Mr. Hisoki's death. What we're looking for is some trace of evidence that one of these two was there when it happened.
Precisely. You are delightfully quick to grasp my meaning. Alright, I'll see what I can see. So we're looking for a trace of evidence that shows someone else was there last night when Cosmo died. Alright, let's look at their hands. Any... This man has chunky arms. He's got chunky arms, man.
He has arms like tree trunks,
Oh, he has arms like tree trunks, doesn't he? hairy tree trunks.
Yes, he certainly has sailor's arms. He's a born man of the sea.
Even if I had been awake, I couldn't have done anything without being dragged out of that wardrobe by this man.
Naruto-san, are you alright? You seem to be lost in thought.
Oh, sorry, blame those hairy tree trunks. Wait. Okay, that's just his clothes. Yeah. She does have the earring on this side. I don't know how she lost it on the other side. Have we seen this before? Let's look at the left ear.
She has such pretty ears among the beautiful hair, like little pink shells.
Oh, what's that? There's something dangling down from her ear.
Ah, that's an earring. The crescent moon part looks as though it's made from wood. It's charming, isn't it?
Women do seem to love adornments like that. In their hair, around their necks, on their fingers, even hanging from their ears, it seems.
Well, jewelry is beautiful, Naruto-san.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. An ink stain. Oh, look at this. It's some kind of stain in an unusual place.
Yes, you're right. It looks like ink, if I'm not mistaken.
Ink. And look at the color, too. It's clear where this came from. Well, 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 sir. I never thought it was the lady for a second. It has always been you.